Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar this morning. We've got our pre-webinar music going. Super excited for everybody to be here to talk about some really powerful stuff today. We're gonna dig deep, so I hope you're ready for it, because we've been doing this for a long time with a lot of people. There we go. Didn't want anybody to have to wait in silence before we get started here in the next minute or two. Got our pre-webinar music on. As you're jumping on and joining us, we're gonna get started here in just a minute. Thank you so much for being here already. Super excited to spend this time with you today talking about the 3 strengths that can blow your life apart. After having done this with over 100,000 clients and measuring their thought process and all the things we're going to talk about today, there are 3 things that stand out above everything else, and I can't wait to dive in with you about this today. So hopefully you're all ready to go. You've got your notes out. We're going to be digging deep. We're going to really be talking about some powerful things today. So again, we'll get started here in just a second. I want to make sure that we've got everything all technically sound and good to go, which it's looking like we should be ready to rock. Awesome. Let me fade this music down. Let's go ahead and get started here. Now, in terms of the 3 biggest strengths that can blow your life apart, there's a lot of focus, a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles that people have out there in terms of what's holding them back. What are my weaknesses? What is creating my biggest challenges to overcome? And something we've found out in 17 years of work with hundreds of thousands of hours and clients, that there are actually strengths that create far bigger challenges than perceived weaknesses. And we're going to dive into this today. I'm going to talk about each of these 3 in depth. Okay, I'm going to really dive in deep. So my commitment to you is that before the end of this webinar, I will challenge many of the widely accepted concepts that are taught in personal development. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I don't want to make this about us versus them, because it's not. We work with a lot of the major organizations out there, a lot of the mentors and the gurus that you've heard of, and the depth that we can provide. It's not about being adversarial, it's about adding some traction, adding some perspective that can really help you grab onto it, make it happen. I will give you access to tools that can hack your own habits of thinking and create lasting success. Now, if you'll stay until the end, I've got a gift for you. I want to make sure that this is worth your time, whether you do anything with us or not. So if you'll stay to the end of this webinar to give me a chance to teach you about all 3 of these strengths and the power that they have, and you go through to the end, you'll see the slide that says the end, and you get to that point. If you'll stay until then, I'm going to give you a free gift. This is our online masterclass, highly reviewed as one of our top instructional pieces, called The Greatest Secrets of Success, where our CEO and my business partner is going to break down the scientific dimensions of motivation and success and goal setting into the 3 areas that can actually allow you to have a total and complete alignment. And when people will focus on these 3 pieces, not only are you going to discover some blind spots about the way you were doing it before, but you're going to find some added passion and drive, eliminating procrastination, adding depth to your relationships that are so important for the success you're looking to create. So this is my free gift to you just for staying to the end of this webinar. So looking forward to sending that to you as soon as we get finished here today. Now, I need your attention. Okay, so please put your cell phones away, turn off Facebook, just eliminate some distractions for me, because I'm not going over promotional material today. We're diving in. My goal here today is to show up and teach you, to be able to connect with you, to serve, to really dig deep so that you have value regardless of whether you do anything with our organization or not. So it's going to be really important that you're focused here with us for the next 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long this information takes, so that I can feel good about walking away knowing that I gave you stuff that you could use no matter what. Now, my name is Paul Blanchard. I'm the president of the Augmendino Leadership Institute. Hi there. Now, a little bit about me. I wake up every morning focused on inspiring creators. Now, to me, creators are entrepreneurs, independent thinkers, leaders, influencers. The term that we prefer to use for them are creators. These are people that want to make an impact on this world. It's not as much about their vocation as much as their mentality and their passion and their drive. And I believe that personal development for creators has got to be personal. It's not how you create success. It's how you create success that matters. Personal to you, not a one-size-fits-all, this worked for him, so hopefully it works for me, or she solved the problem that way, so that's how I'm going to solve it. No, there are principles that guide those things, but the application, and that's where personal development really matters, the application should be personal. I've got over 12 years of professional coaching and consulting experience working with Global 100 companies, small businesses, and entrepreneurs, leaders, executives, and everything in between. I've worked side by side with who I consider the greatest CEO in American history, Jack Welch, who took a little company you might have heard of called General Electric from about $14 billion to over $400 billion in value before he retired. I happened to hook up with him several years ago to help him create his executive MBA program, and we turned it into one of the top 25 programs in the world. It was an incredible experience, and now I am here as the president of the Og Mandino Leadership Institute. Now, as painful as that was, that's all you need to know about me. There's a rule. I've got to make sure you know why you're listening to me. So let's move on to the more important things. I want to take a look into the future, into your future. There is an annoyingly ambiguous question I deliberately ask of potential clients who want to work with me or our organization that is oftentimes taken for granted, and yet we don't realize how much time and energy we're really putting into the exploration of the answers, and that is, what do you want? Before we go any further in this webinar, it's really important you have an idea of what you want. When Alice ran into the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland looking for direction, he asked her where she wanted to go and she didn't know. And he said, well, then any road will get you there. And so if you are looking for direction, if you're looking for a way to create greater success, higher levels of success, that's something you want. I hope you've taken the time to get clear about what that could look like. It's not about being on a monorail of this is what it has to be, but we oftentimes take for granted having a philosophical or ethereal grasp of what we want. So if you do nothing else today from this webinar, take some time after this to get really detailed about what you want. That will guide your success in a powerful way. So do me a favor and imagine being able to explore an MRI for your hidden habits of thinking. We go and we get x-rays and MRIs when we have major challenges, major pain, things that we're not able to figure out about our bodies. And it's this incredible technology to give us these insights. What if you had that for your brain, for not like an MRI of your brain, but for your habits of thinking? The way your neurological processes are firing, what your default habits are that you may not even be conscious of. Imagine being able to identify the habits that you're going to want to harness and be more aware of to create vision and strategy and a plan that fits your thinking. Like I said, personal development should be personal. Imagine personal mastery of those habits resulting in multiplying your income. We're not just looking to create awareness. There's a lot of things out there you can do and read and participate in to increase awareness. But what about the disconnect? We want executable awareness. We don't just want ahas. We want aha and cha-ching. We want to be able to take an aha and put it into work, passion-driven and focused, and result in multiplying our income. What if eliminating the constant battle between your level of success and your level of fulfilling satisfaction didn't have to be this false dichotomy where we're spinning this plate of drive and results, and yet the plate of our fulfillment and our deeper satisfaction starts to run a little bit dry and going back and forth and back and forth. Imagine being able to connect the two, allowing them to partner in your journey. Imagine establishing the ability and the confidence to create your life intentionally. All of us have been in that space, no matter how fleeting the moment have been. We're oftentimes referred to being in the zone, where we feel just connected, like we couldn't do anything wrong. Well, oftentimes we get in those places, I compare them to a surf competition. Half of the time it's the way you ride the wave. The other half of the equation is the wave you get to catch. But there is so much that goes into unconscious instinct to get into the zone. We'd like to show you how to do that on purpose. Now, let's talk a little bit about who this is for. This is the qualification part of whether you should be here or not. First, This is for people that want to get rich quick. Yeah, it is. It is. I know you've probably attended webinars or presentations where there's a disclaimer, this is not for people that want to get rich quick, but what's the alternative? I mean, do you really want to get rich slow? I'm not looking to work with people who want to get rich slow. I would prefer people that want to grow and evolve and progress as quickly as possible, as ethically possible, as morally possible, as much as possible with all the tools and guidance that you can receive. What I'm not looking for is people who want to get rich easy. That's where the disconnect was created, I believe. It's not about not wanting to get rich quick. The real danger and poison of that mentality as it's been categorized is that the concern is wanting to get rich easy. Getting rich easy would require shortcuts. Now, shortcuts may seem like a quick solution, but the dangers are not worth it. We know this. And so let's all settle for having the passion and the drive to want to get rich as quickly as possible for us, but we're going to commit to not trying to get rich easy. I've seen far too many people sabotage their lives, their careers, and their businesses because of that underlying challenge. This is for people that want to focus on the type of person that they are. We don't focus on industry. We're not looking for just real estate agents, just insurance agents, just people building home-based businesses, just executive leaders, just first-time entrepreneurs or experienced entrepreneurs or major investors. We're looking for a type of person, not an industry. So don't look for qualifications or buzzwords of your particular industry. We can get into that as we get deeper into what we provide, because we've got professionals and coaches and amazing people that have a lot of affluence and a lot of experience in a lot of different industries. But we've found that focusing on the person rather than the program, focusing on the person rather than their profession, is far more beneficial to wealth creation, to multiplying your income, and to mastering the habits that can allow you to be successful in whatever industry you are naturally drawn to. Now, we are looking to work with intentional creators. That's what this presentation is for, is we want to connect and identify who out there are creators that want to learn to do it intentionally. And there are two types. One are creators who are already creating, and they want to create faster. These are people who have done big things. These are those of you who have really accomplished some things in your life. Every once in a while you need to step back and go, wow, yeah, really have done some great things, because those creators usually don't have any time to look back in retrospect. But as you do, you're realizing that you're wanting to create faster or creating more or create differently. Those are the intentional creators that we'd like to work with. Secondly, are those who feel that they have a calling to create and just haven't quite figured out how to crack the code yet. They've got a taste for it, they've had some great experiences, and yet there's a little too much of a paradoxical hamster wheel, or feeling like they're starting back at square one at different times, or whether perceived or reality, those people looking to crack that code for themselves. Those are the two types we're looking for. Creators that want to create faster, creators that have been called to do this, but they haven't quite figured out how it fits them, how to find that consistency, how to eliminate that procrastination, how to be as engaged as they're seeing the creators who are creating and want to create faster. That's who this presentation is for. If that's you, awesome. If it's not, you're welcome to stick around to find out if it is and you didn't realize it, or you're welcome to move on with your day. Now, our results are not typical. This is really important to share because we have some pretty astronomically phenomenal results, a lot of them with our clients, because of how deep we dig in and where we go. Today I'm going to walk you through several of the techniques and the actual technology that clients pay tens of thousands of dollars for and have made them millions upon millions of dollars using. But like I said, those results are not typical, because you've got to understand that the average person, statistically, the average person who attends this webinar or any other webinar, as amazing or boring or whatever they might be, gets zero results. You've got to do the work. I mean, engaging in this stuff is completely up to you. And so there are no promises, there are no income guarantees, there's nothing like that here, because you are the variable, whether you're really ready to engage and work. Now, you may not fully understand that, or you may be totally all in at this point. Regardless, let's get through today. Let's dig into these deep areas of these strengths that could blow our life apart And then let's decide together whether you're really ready to take this on at this kind of level. However, regardless, you stay on, you're going to get the free gift, the Greatest Secrets of Success online masterclass for free. I'm giving that to you just as a thank you for staying on here and listening to this powerful information. I'm going to share exactly what's working. I'm not going to hold anything back. We're talking about everything about these 3 strengths today that we have time for. Now, what we're going to cover is strength number 1, which is an incredible gift that creators naturally have at very high levels, and that's the ability to visualize. Strength number 2 is the ability to empathize. Empathy is an incredible strength that a lot of people aren't as acutely aware of some of the shadow sides that are created by such an amazing gift that we have. And finally, one of the most difficult to work with, but one of the most common elements that can get intermediate results, yet when we really step back and consider at what cost, no one wants to live a life of damage control. And so we're going to talk about the strength of having a very active mind, the ability to effortlessly think. Now, what makes all of this different? Well, that's simple. It's the habit finder. As you've already been prompted, go to the Habit Finder to take that. You should have been emailed some links to be able to take it before this webinar to make sure you get a chance to have your own measurements, your own insights of the way that you're thinking. As you saw, the Habit Finder employs, here goes, the formal science of axiological mathematics and Cantor's transfinite calculus and the concept of infinitudes to measure over 6 quadrillion variables in the way that you think. Now, I don't say that necessarily to impress you, just to make sure you know that it's not tea leaves, it's not tarot cards, it's locked in objective science. That's why I was referring to it like an MRI of your thinking habits. It's that accurate, it's that powerful, that you get an opportunity to have your thought processes measured as accurately as a thermometer could measure the temperature outside. That's what the Habit Finder does. And so much of what we're going to talk about today would not be possible without that proprietary technology. We've spent close to the last 15 years since we've developed it, making it better and better and better, and learning and learning and learning from what's really going on under the surface. What's really happening under personality and behavior and tendencies. And that's what's driving our discussion today, is what we've actually found makes a difference. What really shifts things in our lives. Not just has us more aware, not just the ahas, but what really creates that neurohabit shift. We know that the brain has plasticity, neuroplasticity. We know that we can retrain habits, that we can make real lasting change in the way that we think. We want to know where we're starting though, and that's what the Habit Finder gives us. All right, you ready to dive in? Okay, let's dive right in. Strength number 1, vivid visualization. This is a gift that is present in over 96% of entrepreneurs and independent thinkers and leaders and influencers, as we've referred to today, creators. Virtually, that's virtually everyone in that category. 9.6 out of 10 people are vivid visualizers. This is the ability to see life beyond its current circumstances, to see possibility, to be able to explore and problem solve, and to be able to think about where you want to go and why you're doing what you want to do. In fact, it's so powerful that most creators are using it through much of their day without even realizing it. And what we want to talk about is how this strength can really start to create some challenges. First, I want to know, what do you dream about? What are your dreams? And also, have you written them down? That's such a powerful litmus test, because as vivid visualizers, we spend a lot of time in our minds. We spend a lot of time processing what we're actually experiencing physically, and we process it mentally, and there's so much going on up there that it's sometimes difficult to be totally present. So if you were totally present right now, totally in the now, and you were to observe your own thoughts, okay, this is a gift that we have called metacognition, where we can step back from our own thoughts and think about them. What is it that you dream about? What is it that you dream about that you may not tell anyone else? What is it you dream about that you've posted on social media and you've put on a vision board and you're really intentionally going after it? What are those dreams? The gift of vivid visualization can take you really deep and detailed into what those are. And then again, the question that I asked earlier, what do you want? What do you dream about, and what do you want? Why do you want those things? Is there anything you want that you're not sure you should want? Is there anything you want that you're not sure you're ever going to be able to get? Are there things that you want that just drive you relentlessly to be able to create? So let's tap in a little bit today to our own vivid visualization. Where does our mind go in windshield time, as we would call it, or when we're doing activities that don't require a lot of cognitive function, so our minds can drift? Have we ever just hit the pause button, time out, call it a mental interrupt, time out? Where's my mind? Where is it? Is it so far in the future, thinking about how great life will be when? And what does that when look like? What are my dreams? What do I want? Clarity on that is incredibly important, because we're not here to talk about these strengths so we can get rid of them. We're here to talk about them so we can harness them better. So let's increase our awareness a little bit of what we're dreaming about and what we really want. There are two really dangerous goals I want to get right out of the way. Two really dangerous goals for vivid visualizers. People that are able to just see possibilities just so effortlessly. Everyone can vividly visualize. Some people need to put a little bit more effort, a little bit more focus into doing it. Like I said, over 90% of creators do it effortlessly. It can just take off without even realizing it. And I want to get these two out of the way because they're so common, but they're so dangerous. The first goal is time freedom. The second goal is financial freedom. Do me a favor and just think, if you've ever said, I want financial freedom, or I'm going for financial freedom, or I wish I had more time freedom, or anything that sounds like that. Now, what I'm not saying is that these are bad things. I'm just saying they are really dangerous for vivid visualizers. Like, peanuts aren't bad, but if someone has an allergy to them, the anaphylactic response is not worth, having peanuts close by. And so there are other ways to get those kinds of nutrients from legumes and nuts and other things. And so there are other ways to be able to pursue what we intellectually understand as time freedom and financial freedom. But what I want to separate is the difference between what we intellectually understand about them and what our thought processes are actually creating under the surface. Now, to do that, let's break down a little bit of what they both have in common. And that's they both have freedom in common. Now, I am not talking about patriotic freedom. That's not what this conversation is about at all. I believe myself to be a great patriot, and I'm a huge believer in freedom. I'm not talking about that type of freedom. I'm talking about the first definition of freedom in the dictionary, which is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Now, the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants is interesting. I like the idea of being able to have a right to that, but the concern is wants. If you take a look out at the world, has people unapologetically going after what they want in the moment is what that certainly comes to mind, what they want, and if they didn't have any hindrance or restraint, can you imagine what that might look like? What if you always got what you wanted? Like when that person cut you off on the freeway and you wanted them to be driven into a ditch or spin out. Or when, we could think of 100 different scenarios where what we initially wanted in the moment, it would have been dangerous if that could have been given to us without hindrance or restraint. The reason it's a risk for vivid visualizers is because this type of freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, creates an expectation for a reality that doesn't exist. To where you could have the right to use and harness and have time without any hindrance or restraint. That doesn't exist. The very nature of tick, tick, tick of time is something that immediately creates a specific hindrance and restraint. We can choose to fight that, or we can choose to embrace it and to be able to make the most of it. And time freedom doesn't drive that. Same with financial freedom. It's like, I want to make enough money so I don't have to worry about money anymore is the most common explanation I get for financial freedom. That's like saying I want to serve enough people so that I don't have to deal with people anymore. I mean, how is that an aligned drive? So again, I'm not saying time freedom, financial freedom from an intellectual, right now where we're conscious and aware, and I give you an opportunity to really talk about what you mean about that. That's great. But I'm talking about what your thinking habits under the surface are naturally going to grab onto over 90% of the time as a vivid visualizer, and it will sabotage you. Because what it wants is it wants your life to be easier. It wants you to be diving back and forth between two different thought processes of fantasy, of dreaming about what my life could be. How amazing it'll be after we get to this point and after we're able to accomplish this and build this and do that. And then diving into catastrophe, where it's worst case scenarios and reading way too much into people's messages and being way too worried about what people think about us and all this chaos and worry and drive, so that the only joy we end up experiencing is just the relief that it wasn't as bad as we thought. These are the two worlds that are really common for vivid visualizers to be driven into. Now, you may have incredible ability to navigate these two worlds, but it doesn't change the actual physiological response that it can have. Because when we get stuck, especially when it's happening unconsciously, which having such an effortless, powerful gift as a vivid visualizer, it certainly can. It's actually very common. We have a proclivity for it to get the best of us, to be used destructively. About 98% of the time we find, in fact, that as we go back and forth between these two, there is a physiological response that occurs in the body that you cannot avoid. Because you are such a powerful vivid visualizer that if you go into fantasy or catastrophe, you can do so with such intention, such power, such detail, without even trying, that your body will react as if it is your new reality. So get this, if you're fantasizing about how amazing life could be, or you're catastrophizing about what could happen and worry and concern, and your body starts to react as if that's actually happened, where you're driving into the limbic brain, into the fight or flight response, and your only joy comes from the relief that the fight or flight response wasn't needed and it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, or the fantasy that your body is now physiologically reacting to as if it's actually happening. Guess what happens when your brain realizes that's not its current reality? When you kind of come to from driving or from just thinking about things or allowing your brain to wander without even realizing it, and you come back to your current reality and it isn't the fantasy, it's another fight or flight response. Adrenaline is released. Cortisol is released. The pathology of cortisol is terrifying. It's the stress drug. All these things start occurring, and then we spend the rest of the day in a fantasy or catastrophe hangover. Or it could be the next day. There could be a little bit of a delayed response. You ever had one of those days where you were just dragging? Passion was so hard to call upon. And hopefully we've got enough discipline to still make the most of the day. A lot of us just can't when we're in that space. That comes from this amazing gift. What we're going to want to learn to do is to harness it, to be able to have it work for us. Because this is the source of a passion-driven life. And passion, my favorite definition, is a willingness to suffer for something you love. That's the passion you want to have. And the passion that we want to drive. We want to avoid this proclivity of fantasy and catastrophe, because over 90% of those of you watching this webinar, over 90% of you are at an incredible risk of this strength driving you into fantasy and catastrophe. And it doesn't mean you aren't going to be able to create success. In fact, many of you probably have created a lot of success. But again, what we're asking and understanding all this stuff under the surface is at what cost? And so what we're going to want to focus on are our two choices we have every day. As a vivid visualizer, you're going to want to be really clear about this every day. Am I going to choose to escape? Do I want the shortcut? Do I want it easy? Do I want time freedom and financial freedom so that I can just have those without hindrance and restraint? Or do I want to master those things? Do I want to engage those things? To take on life? Because I've worked with a lot of incredibly successful people, and none of them got there by escaping. None of them got there by having this totally zeroed in idea of getting there and having life just be the easiest thing in the world. The ones I've talked to, the ones who have that incredible level of success and that balanced level of fulfilling satisfaction, are the ones who chose to engage and were hyper in tune with which side of this decision they were on at any given time of the day. If you're finding frustration, if you're having challenges, just check in. Are my habits of thinking, because it's not you, it's your habits of thinking, wanting me to escape, to avoid, to have shortcuts, to figure out the easy way? Or am I choosing to engage? I'm all for working smarter working smarter, but it shouldn't be rather than harder. That's another challenge, because then we're trying to engage and escape at the same time. We're actually trying to escape in the name of engagement. I'm just trying to work smarter, and yet we find our discipline and our drive and our consistency starting to wane the more and more time we spend trying to find the shortcut or the escape or whatever the case is. Let's choose to engage and watch what that can do to ignite your vivid visualization, to grab on to where you want to go, to your targets that you're aiming for, but be more focused on how to get there and the inspiration and passion you're going to want to have to get there, rather than the exhaustion of coming back from living out a fantasy of what it'll be like when, or of resisting the catastrophe of all these worst case scenarios. Okay? Strength number 2, empathy. This is where you can go, aww. Yes, I love this picture. Empathy. Empathy, one of my favorite definitions of empathy is by Dan Goleman, who said that empathy is the experience of being experienced. There's a lot of interaction between people these days. And there's a lot of ability for empathy. But it's incredible to me the number of techniques, the number of tactics that have flooded the space where empathy should be the first and foremost, and as Augmentino called it, the greatest secret of success in all ventures. Empathy is love. Love is required to have empathy, to experience another person, to be able to empath, to stand on someone else's path. And this is an amazing strength that I find really intriguing, that creators, entrepreneurs, independent thinkers, leaders, influencers, all these great people out there that are looking to grow and evolve and make a difference in this world typically have very high levels of empathy and intuition. What we're going to talk a little bit about is how it can get the better of us, because high levels of empathy, experiencing someone else, is so important. Because I don't know anyone that's reached pinnacles of success, as you might call them, that's gotten there by themselves. That did it completely solo, without any influence to or from anyone else. And empathy is an incredible way to make sure that the exhausting tactics and techniques of interaction can be converted to real connection. And also high levels of intuition. These are the impressions we get about someone else as we really engage our empathy. In inspiration, intuitive moments that we can so often talk ourselves out of. These are amazing gifts. These are not soft, gushy, warm, fuzzy blanket gifts. These are actually some of the most precise, clear, and accurate gifts that you've got when you decide to trust them. When you decide to engage your high levels of empathy and intuition, it can feel a little counterintuitive to strength number 3 that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But these are 2 amazing gifts you're going to want to get in tune with, because over 90% of you have them at very high levels. We've measured this in over 100,000 people in the Habit Finder profile. Over 90% of you under the surface have very high and clear levels of empathy and intuition, which is amazing. What a gift. Here's the inner dialogue question. If I talk to you the way your own thoughts talk to you, could we still be friends? If you ever listen to what you've said about yourself at any given time, anybody been caught going, oh, you're such an idiot, when you're talking to yourself? How could I be so stupid? How could I do that? Da, 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 da. And those are just the things we might mutter out loud, let alone all the noise going up on in our head, the inner dialogue, the self-sabotaging dialogue that an alarming amount of us face, simplified by this question that I don't think that if I talk to you the way that I believe a lot of your thoughts talk to you, as we've scientifically measured, that we could still be friends. We probably wouldn't get along very well if I said out loud some of the things that your thought processes want you to believe about you. Now, there are a couple of options here. We can decide we're not good enough, we can play the victim, we can play small, or we can lower our shoulder and bash through it and create a whole bunch of compensation models in our own brain, a whole compensatory response is what it's called, to our own self-sabotaging dialogue, and we can work in spite of it. We can create success as a way to prove something and show them that we're good enough, and that can create results. But again, we're asking at what cost? Because the consistent sustaining of those results is virtually impossible when it is in spite of this inner dialogue, rather than being able to harness our empathy and our intuition to take it on. It is our very empathy and intuition that makes us so sensitive to this dialogue. We're so available to connect with someone else, and yet our inner dialogue, whether we've chose to play the victim because of it, or we've chose to get thick skin, which the challenge there is what is hard to let in is hard to let out. And so our compensatory responses to this inner dialogue likely isn't serving us. And because we're built to have this high levels of empathy and intuition, when we choose to engage it, it opens us up to our own noise at an even higher volume and an even higher experience, a louder experience of our own inner dialogue, because we're looking to stand on someone else's path, because our empathy and intuition, that sensitivity, if you will, and I don't mean in a fragile way, I mean in a heightened level of awareness way, not only opens us up to be able to connect with others, but it opens us up to hear a lot of our own dialogue when it's time to engage with others. And we may talk ourselves out of talking to someone else. We may talk ourselves out of an incredible connection. And over 85% of you, statistically, watching this webinar, have major challenges with that kind of sabotage, and have either chosen to just play the victim and hopefully sometimes be able to take it on and fight the good fight, or others of you have taken the path of trying to be numb to it, compensatory responses, thick skin, finding motivation, which is an external force to push you through any of this noise. And it's not hard. A lot of us have experienced those kinds of people. Some of us are those people, and it's the best we could have done up to this point with those thought processes. And I offer you an opportunity to explore being able to shift that. And the solution, in its simplest form, is intrinsic connection. Rather than going through life to interact or have conversations, those are going to happen naturally. Challenge you to use these gifts to connect. And what that looks like is stepping into someone else's world rather than being overly consumed by your own. To do that requires some foundational principles to connect that we don't have time to talk about all of them today. But the first is agape love, which is the highest form of love. It's often referred to as God's love, which is a theological connection, but the term itself is actually roughly translated as a highest level of awareness. Agape love is not a warm fuzzy blanket, it's clarity, it's accuracy. And it's not just accuracy in seeing another person, it's accuracy in seeing yourself, so that you can set your noise on the shelf and focus on another person. And here's the best way to do that. Obviously, we're not going to make this shift in a webinar, but here's a way for you to start experiencing a shift. And that is to simply focus on listening to understand. Okay, Paul, that makes sense. That sounds good. Listening to understand. But what I mean is stop listening to respond. I've worked with a lot of self-proclaimed great listeners in my career. And when they learn to intrinsically connect, as many of them put, they didn't know what they didn't know. It's not that what they were doing was bad. This isn't that's a false dichotomy. This isn't good and bad. This is good, better, and even better. To continue this infinite drive of being able to more clearly intrinsically connect someone. So the next time you're talking to someone, pay close attention to where your mind is at. Are you really listening? And if you're listening to respond, a couple of things are going to happen. Either you're thinking about what you're going to want to say the whole time that they're talking, while trying to kind of listen to them. And if they said, are you even listening? You have enough cognitive function to recall a couple of things as you do that. But that's all on an intellectual level. We're talking about diving deeper than that. So quiet your own noise and focus on them and really listen. The other thing that could happen if you're listening to respond is you're listening really intently, but then they say something that triggers something, and you go down this rabbit hole of thinking about what you want to say about that and make sure you don't forget it, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And you are likely missing these great hints and keys and doors of really listening to understand someone. So just try that. It sounds really simple, but when you feel it, you know it. When you're showing up to listen, to understand. And what's amazing is when we really learn how to master this, which we don't have time to do in a webinar, but when you really learn to master this, we've shown in studies that there is an average of a 40% increase in productive energy and cooperation when you commit to this process of really creating intrinsic connection. 40%! Can you imagine being able to get 40% more from your direct reports, from your business partners, from your family, from people you work with, from clients and customers? Right off the bat, a 40% increase if you intrinsically connect. And it starts with really understanding what it means to love, and I mean agape love, which is hard to really understand in English language because we only have one word for love, so we have to lump them all together and try and figure out what people really mean. But agape love, the highest level of awareness, to connect rather than just interact. It's revitalizing, it's fulfilling, and not only that, but you become the beneficiary of at least a 40% increase in people's cooperation and productive energy. All right, strength number 3, effortless thinking. The ability for your mind to just go, woo, okay? I mean, really, where most of us on this call have an amazing ability to effortlessly think. Our brain never shuts up. We're always thinking about new and better ways to do things and ideas and problem solving and breaking things down. My question is, what do you do to quiet your mind? Now, when I'm speaking to large audiences, I'll usually get a couple people that say, I drink, okay? Or take a nap, or I read, or I exercise. You're going to want to be really clear first and foremost about how to quiet your mind. Now, I'm using the term quiet deliberately because the goal is to not unplug your mind. I'm not anti-unplug, and some common unpluggings might be watching TV. For some people, even reading is an unplug, where you can just distract yourself or shut it down to be able to unwind or whatever the case is. That's different from quieting your mind. Quieting your mind is more similar to meditation. It's not getting the activity of your mind to go away. It's spending some time where you're not forcing it to go anywhere. And you'd be amazed it's spending some time where you're not forcing it to go anywhere. And you would be amazed at how much pressure is relieved when we are able to learn to intentionally quiet our mind. Because a lot of us are relying on go, unplug, recover, go, unplug, recover, and before you know it, we find ourselves in a total time and money reality, where those are the two things that we are focused on, those are the two things that we're measuring everything with, when we're so limited if that's all we're focused on is time and money. That's literally, we've got 10 things, minus 2 is 8, minus 3 is 5, add 2 is 7, we've got 24 hours in the day, I've only got this much time to do it. It's amazing to me, for those of us with very active, effortless minds, that we always seem to figure it out when we really have to. That's a really common attribute. But we also never feel like we're getting ahead. It's always so much going on. And with a very active mind, we're always going to be able to fill any empty space. It's critical to make sure that bow, for that bow and arrow, it gets a chance to be loosed. That it's not always a total pull to lose its spring. And there's so much that can come from quieting your mind, and that way we can avoid one of the number one challenges of creators who are just creating and creating and creating and busy and busy and busy and busy, and that's burnout, exhaustion. There's only so far that stimulants can go. There's only so far that distractions and unplugging can go. There's a lot of really dangerous consequences in continuing to need to re-up that, to find greater stimulation and greater motivation versus learning to quiet your mind. Because our very active minds naturally create what I call systemic quicksand. Because our gift of effortlessly thinking that is so valuable and so awesome as leaders and influencers and creators, it's systemically driven. What that means is it's the third dimension of how we process our lives. The first is intrinsic. We talked about that in how we want to connect with people, because people are intrinsic. They're infinite. They're priceless. They're beyond worth. The next level we process life at is extrinsic. That's the stuff. And then the third is systemic. The systems, the structure, the rules, the policies. In mathematics, the systemic dimension is the only one that doesn't have anything infinite tied to it. Whereas intrinsic is a non-denumerable infinite and extrinsic is a denumerable infinite, and I'm sure I've got your head spinning right now. But systemic is a singular concept. It is all or nothing, right or wrong, black and white, life or death. It's systemic quicksand. It is our natural go-to. It's like the fight or flight response, fight or run away. It's a limbic response in your brain. And it's one of the reasons why it's a go-to response, because mathematically it's simple. And it can create really quick results. It can get stuff done fast. But again, we're talking about at what cost? Because the primary costs of systemic quicksand, of systemic thinking, is first, we get very attached to our ideas. It is not all or nothing, it's all or nothing. Like really, this is what's going on in your brain. You may not consciously understand it at the time, but your very active mind grabs onto an idea, and then it starts to get you actually physiologically attached to that idea. And what that leads to is a need to be right. And this isn't a need to be right because of entitlement or immaturity. It certainly could be. You're not immune to those things. But when I say that the majority of you have a challenge needing to be right, it's because this is occurring at a cellular level. Your systemic thought process is so deeply ingrained into your lower brain, they would call it, that you feel the idea. You feel the need to be right. It's like someone stuck in a desert who needs a bottle of water because they're dehydrated. That's the depth of this need. That's why we can so often get caught up in these disagreements or arguments, and it's seemingly more heated or seemingly more driven than the actual importance of what's being talked about, and then the dust settles and we're like, wow, why do we get so caught up about that? Or why did they feel like, it was so aggressive or so heated or whatever the case is? It's because we were cellularly charged. We were physically charged to need to be right. And what happens more times than not is we crush people, because the majority of them are connected to their ideas as well. And when our need to be right overpowers theirs, we need to be right. And what we don't realize, oftentimes on a conscious level, is that means, in a systemic process, that they have to be wrong. When we need to be right, they, whoever that is, needs to be wrong. That's a major challenge when we get to the pinnacle of our success by intrinsically connecting with people. Yet those are the people that we crush with good intentions. That's what I pay them for. If we can just get there, then it'll all be worth it. All these different things that cause us to make it so much more of an uphill battle. I mean, success is an uphill battle, but it doesn't mean you need to be climbing up it in a full set of skis and a mudslide and crushing people along the way. But don't be afraid of this. This isn't sensitivity training. This is starting to be hyper aware of this incredible gift that is like a fire hose that you're going to want to learn to harness, not shut down, harness, so you can point it in the right direction. Here's 2 solutions I want you to work on. Number 1, what I like about your idea is, and number 2, tell me more about that. Your very active mind likely lends yourself to being a fixer or an advice giver or a solution creator, all of which are phenomenal, but are usually your go-to for creating solutions for other people, for adding value. Someone comes to you with a problem, someone comes to you with a suggestion, and your very active mind has it analyzed and sized up and problem solved and SWOT analyzed like that. And it's, okay, but, and we dive right into the analysis. They could have 90% of a good idea, and as your very active mind will only let you focus on the 10% that's wrong. And although you feel like you're referencing the 90%, all they're feeling is, I suck, I'm stupid, I don't know anything, this was a really bad idea, or I didn't do it as well as they wanted. All this kind of dialogue that they're dealing with. And it could be simply subverted by stopping, taking a deep breath when someone has a great suggestion or even a bad suggestion, especially when they have a bad suggestion, and saying, what I like about your idea is. If next time you're in a boardroom or a meeting or you're in a conversation for a planning meeting, just do me a favor and try this. Try letting this be the way you dictate the conversation. And the next time you're talking with your spouse or one of your children or anyone about anything that they have input on, try this being your go-to. It's going to be hard. Because when you say what I like about your idea is, all your systemic brain heard was, I agree with you, which is just going to push buttons and set you off if you don't actually agree with them, because all it can be is all or nothing. But as soon as you say what I like about your idea is you employ these search engines that Google would be envious of in your brain to find something you like, to find good in their idea, and you're able to quiet this very active mind just a little bit to show up, and you'll be in awe of the solutions you create. You can still correct them if there are problems to be addressed. You can still offer advice, but you can stop doing it prematurely. Because you're going to want to create connection. You're not going to want to crush people. You're going to want to take advantage of that 40% at least. And that's in the studies we've done in non-adversarial relationship, so like a friendship. 40% of their productive energy and cooperation will come pouring out if you'll use what I like about your idea is. And as you're talking, you're listening to understand. Remember strength number 2? You're listening to understand, to stand on their path. You're experiencing them, as Dan Goleman said, and saying, tell me more about that. And then once you really feel that you understand them, then you ask for permission to share. Grossly oversimplifying some incredibly powerful things that we spend weeks and months and even years with major organizations and with individuals to be able to master. But what's beautiful is right from day one, when they start to experience some of this, it starts having some immediate benefits and a payoff to make it worth it, because we're reprogramming some things, and that's not easy to do, especially in this strength where it's systemically driven, where it's got this steel core that makes it really hard to shift. And yet that's one of the reasons why it's been so hard to do so up to this point, and why we may not have noticed all the obstacles and challenges it's really been creating in our lives. But try the what I like about your idea is, and tell me more about that. Kind of a take 2 and call me in the morning kind of thing. See if you can't challenge this very active mind of yours to not need to give them advice or counsel or solutions right off the bat, but to be able to step into their world and allow your very active mind to connect with them and then teach them, or to connect with them and then help them improve in whatever the case is. So, we all understand this. Information alone is not going to get you results. It's the application, it's the understanding of the principles, it's the executable awareness that's really going to create that. So not only am I going to give you that greatest secrets of success as a free gift for staying to the end of this webinar, and we're just a couple minutes away, I'm just wrapping up right now. I want to make sure that you're given access to some tools and some things that I really think are going to take this information. If you've connected to what we've been talking about with these 3 strengths, you want to go deeper, you want to learn more about your habits of thinking to create success, to be able to master these habits and multiply your income. So here is the next level. The next level is the Power Session Coaching Experience. This is hosted by me personally. I take this on. This is one of my favorite things I get to do every week. Every Tuesday at noon Mountain Time. There's just something magical about Tuesday, seems to work out. 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. I have a 45-minute to 1-hour group coaching call. Now, for years, this was only available to our high-end coaching clients. Those who had paid tens of thousands of dollars to coach with us would be able to get access to Power Session Coaching to help them sustain the trajectory and the growth and the mastery of the habits that they had learned in their one-on-one coaching experiences. However, a couple of years ago, we wanted to try an experiment. What happened if we gave some people in our inner circle an opportunity to dive into this first, before they became coaching clients? Could it have a significant impact? Because we certainly weren't looking for some kind of holding pattern for our clients. We wanted to give them something that would progress them, that would move them forward, greater success, greater levels of income. And it worked. And it's economical too, because it's a group. But it gives me an opportunity to dive in and make it as personal as possible. I don't just sit there and lecture. I don't just sit there and become a talking head. I interact with the group. I process, just like I would in a one-on-one coaching engagement, people that want to come out of the group and be on the webcam with me one-on-one, and everybody else gets to participate in watching and get their opportunities to do that as well. This is a live weekly group coaching call. It's recorded and archived. If you miss one, you can call in if you're on the road. You can connect on your mobile device, your iPad, whatever, so you can see the presentation, so you can see me and interact with me. At the very least, you're going to be able to watch the archived recordings, and you could go back and watch Power Sessions for the last couple of years if you wanted to, and you're going to get the additional Habit Finder Masterclass benefits of learning more about your own habit finder profile, learning more about these measurements and being able to take it that much deeper. This is an $800 value that for the longest time wasn't even available to people who hadn't already invested tens of thousands of dollars in coaching, let alone at the price that we're offering it at right now, which has only been available to our inner circle up to this point. Now, let's have a little show and tell. How about, rather than just hearing from me about this, I give you an opportunity to hear from some people that participate with me in the Power Sessions. So here you go.
Thankful, grateful, and blessed is what I have to say about my experience with the Og Mandino Group, working with Dave and Paul Blanchard.
So not only has it helped with my business life, my peace of mind, all of these amazing things that you learn in the Power Session just with Paul, and he's so precise and so straightforward that I realized what I am doing in this life is powerful.
So why are the Power Sessions important to me? Why do I find them so valuable? Last summer I was in a really dark place. I had a lot of dreams, I had a lot of goals, and I just didn't know how to get started. I'm sitting in my office figuring out, man, I need help. So I got involved with the Power Sessions. I made a commitment. My business has tripled. My relationships have been deeper and richer because of what these Power Sessions have done in my own life. Life is too short to be sitting around dreaming all day and doing nothing.
I don't usually do a lot of testimonials. I'm very careful about who I recommend. But I can wholeheartedly say that my experiences with Paul and Dave and the whole Og Mandino Leadership Institute have been life-changing. As an entrepreneur and a business owner, I really needed what I was going to learn when I happened to stumble upon and find Paul and Dave. They're the real deal. And so I can wholeheartedly recommend Paul, Dave, the whole team at the Og Mandino Leadership Institute.
Hey, my name is Mattia Young. I just wanted to hop on and tell you about how amazing the Power Sessions are. The coaching is amazing. We get really great one-on-one coaching, even in that group setting. We're always able to ask questions, and Paul's so great at making sure that we always get our questions answered, and can't imagine my life without it.
Paul has taken me on a journey which has helped me reach new heights in my career and to give me clarity and direction in terms of my businesses and some of my entrepreneurial endeavors. So I just wanted to thank Paul and to share with you that if you have the opportunity to coach with him, I would highly recommend that you take advantage of that opportunity.
Okay, well, I need to grow my business. I know I'm in my way. And so I was looking at it mainly for business. What I didn't expect to find, but what has happened as that has transformed my whole life.
And for those that are listening, please take advantage. It will bring back many, many, many more dollars than you'll spend, and much greater peace of mind than perhaps you might have at this moment.
Smile. I'm excited about life. I'm enjoying the journey, and I'm leaning into challenges because I now have this ability to think a certain way. This has been a success more than those things, let alone the fact that our revenues in our company are up $150,000 a month, let alone that my personal income is flourishing at a higher level than it's ever been. And I hope this inspires someone to make that decision to take life to the next level.
Some phenomenal human beings that I get the opportunity to participate with week in and week out. This is not your typical group coaching experience. We dive in and we dive deep and we make it personal. Like I said, this is one of my favorite things that I get to do. So, are you ready for more? Well, of course. We always want more. So here it is. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get live power session coaching experience, an $800 value. Live weekly group coaching calls with me. Not any of my other coaches, not any of my other team members or specialists, with me. I'm going to take it on. I'm going to take you on. We're going to have an incredible experience. They're going to be recorded and archived for you to go back and review so that you don't have to take these crazy, frivolous notes and rather than pay attention to the session. And then if there's anything that you missed, you can go back and review it. If there's one that you just really hit you and it was a lot to take in, you can go back and go over it over and over again, not to mention the Habit Finder resources. You're going to get a one-on-one strategy session, a $300 value. This is a 60-minute session with one of my Habit Finder specialists. I don't have time to go through your Habit Finder personally with everybody, but I have a team of Habit Finder specialists that are going to take you deeper into your goals, your objectives, why your habits of thinking matter, where they've been holding you back, where you could really punch the gas and accelerate. You get that strategy session as a part of today's offer, and you get full Og Vault access. Habit Finder is the official technology of the Og Mandino Leadership Institute. We are the official Og Mandino company. Og wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World 50 years ago, sold over 25 million copies, and is considered one of the greatest speakers and writers that has ever lived. And we have the distinct honor of carrying his legacy on in the 21st century. And so our massive online library has been called the Og Vault. This is all the digital material that we've created over 17 years. Audio, top-rated master classes, comprehensive home study systems. This is easily well over $2,500 worth of information at your fingertips on demand to absorb and take in things like how to really set healthy boundaries. You probably realize entrepreneurs, independent thinkers, and a lot of us that have very active minds and are very driven don't always have the best ways of setting healthy boundaries, all the way to really understanding the science behind expanding your comfort zone and all kinds of other incredible things that you get with the full Og Vault access included in today's offer. Now, I guarantee you, I promise you that if you really embrace this and use it, you show up, and this power session coaching experience doesn't help you with exactly how to make more money doing what you love and bring guaranteed business success, then I'll refund your money. Simple as that. I know it may not be for everybody, but the track record of those who show up and really take this on, talk about worth it. Talk about making the squeeze worth the juice, creating the results that you can count on, the confidence, eliminating procrastination, deepening your relationships, being able to create your life intentionally. And if you show up and it doesn't work, no risk. I'll refund your money, no problem. It's not going to be for everybody. So, get started now with 90 days of power session coaching. 90 days, week in and week out, just you and me, okay? For just $129. Seriously, that's $3,600 of value that I'm giving to you for $129. This is your opportunity to dive into a group that is focused on living passion-driven and really creating in tangible reality their dreams and their results, whether it's in home-based businesses, entrepreneurship, executive leadership, whatever the case is. We're going to dive in and we're going to create shifts that create results. Now, real quick, this is important and then we're done, okay? I learned two incredible lessons from Einstein and from understanding the science of excuses, okay? Let's start with the excuses. I remember talking to a mentor of mine once who said, Paul, do you know what the opposite of results is? And I gave some creative, off-the-cuff responses, and she went on to say, no, actually, the opposite of results are reasons. I just went, oh man, wow, I got to take a second to sit back and think about that. And I've never forgot that. That when I feel myself getting really good, and I've got a really active mind too, just like the rest of you, that I can get really good at creating reasons for a lack of results. I can really rationalize, and what's interesting about rationalize when you look at the definition, it's to use logic, plausibility, and reason, and then here's the kicker, even when it's not true or appropriate. Ooh, talk about a strength that can work against you. And so I started paying attention to my excuses. I started paying attention to my reasons. And guess what happened? I got better results. The other incredible lesson I learned was from Einstein. Now, everyone talks about Einstein's definition of insanity, which you can't even totally prove is originally attributed to Einstein, but he did talk about it, that doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, no one talks about the next thing that Einstein talked about, and that was that he said that the mind cannot solve a problem that it created itself. Ooh, how many of us have sabotaging thought processes and we're trying to think our way out of thinking unhealthy? That's what Einstein was talking about. That's why I have a coach. That's why my coach has a coach. That's why I love to coach. Because you have incredible ability and it's time for it to be unleashed. But our metacognitive, our consciousness keeps convincing us that we just need to do this. And I just need to, have you ever heard yourself having this just conversation? I just need to use these tools better. I just need to be more consistent at the gym. I just need to, man, that is your mind trying to solve a problem that it created itself. So if we understand these two things, swallow our pride, dig in, and be ready to do the deep work, the rewards are incredible. And you get 90 days of power sessions today for just $129. That's it. $129 for 90 days for me to show you what's possible. That's something that used to cost $800. $499 enrollment fee and $99 a month just to get into power sessions. And now you're getting an opportunity to dive into it for $129. Why? Well, that's easy. Because we believe that that is one of the most powerful places to create a relationship with you, to make it affordable and add massive value. So when you're ready for the next level and the next level and the next level, that we've got that relationship that has proven results. And you're going to come to us for every one of those levels of your life, your success, and your pursuit of your dreams and your goals and your objectives. So that's the end. Check your email for the free gift for staying to the end. I hope it's not the end, literally. I really hope to see you in the power sessions. This is going to be an amazing opportunity for you to take things on. And at the value, the discount, don't let this be the end. But thank you so much regardless for being here. Create a great day.